That's birds.
No, that's good. What do you want to see?
That's the birds. Oops. That's the birds covering Pete Seeger and Turn, Turn, Turn. And it was music from Pete before that, Sailing Down My Golden Thread. The Golden Thread, the mighty Hudson River, which is directly to my left, though here in New York City, where we're broadcasting live today for Pete Seeger's 100th birthday with the mighty Hudson River Sloop Clearwater here, and a press conference about to begin. I'm going to throw things over right now to Clearwater's Executive Director, Greg Williams.
Well, thanks for everyone for coming out here to New York's beautiful 79th Street Boat Basin. We're here with the Chapins and Manna Greene, our Environmental Action Director, and we're here to celebrate what would have been Pete Seeger's 100th birthday. Since I didn't know Pete personally, I'm going to hand things over to Manna, who did know him and was greatly inspired by him.
Thank you, Greg. I think Pete was one of the great visionaries and leaders of our time. He started out humble beginnings as a musician and a music historian. He was inspired by people all over the country and all over the world, including going to Appalachia to bring classical music to Appalachia and finding that people in Appalachia had beautiful music and so forth around the world. Pete loved people. On his banjo, he had an inscription that said, "This machine surrounds hate and forces it to surrender." So in 1966, he and a group of friends had the idea that there must be a way to clean up what was a sewer of a Hudson River. And he read a book about old historic Dutch sloops and decided to try and build one here on the Hudson River, and he was absolutely successful, working very hard, collecting nickels and dimes and quarters and dollars until he had enough to get some larger donors to help out, and they actually built the sloop even before it was fully funded. And then part of the way they did that was they held festivals and musical picnics and drew people to the river and got them to imagine what it could be if it was cleaned up and fully restored. One of the first things they did once the sloop was launched was to sail up and down the river and collect legislation to protect the Hudson River and all our waterways, and sailed down to Washington, D.C., and that ended up being the turning point for the passage of landmark legislation, the Clean Water Act. And Clearwater has been working to protect and clean up the Hudson River and its entire watershed, and to promote the well-being of everyone living in the watershed, and that means both people and the critters and the plants and all the living beings. So it's been indeed a great privilege, and I just want to fast forward and say that even up till the very end of his life, Pete Seeger was an environmental activist. He was renowned as a musician and as a courageous visionary, but he also cared about all of the individual environmental issues up and down the river and in New York State. And to that end, the very last environmental action cause that Pete worked on was to implore Governor Andrew Cuomo to follow in the footsteps of his wonderful father by banning fracking. And it wasn't much longer that was accomplished. And what a great contribution to mitigating climate change. So I am absolutely honored to be here today to sing the praises of Pete Seeger and the immense contribution he's made to the Hudson River, to New York, and to the world.
Thank you, Manna. So while I didn't have the opportunity to get to know Pete Seeger, I am very fortunate to have gotten to know his beautiful sloop. And I've come to realize that while it's often described as intended to get people to come down to the river and appreciate it and the river's beauty, it's much more interesting than that. It's a key part, at least for me, of Pete Seeger's legacy of getting people to actively participate in things. And so the sloop itself is actually home to almost 20 people for the entire sailing season. And it's its own community. And we learn to get together, get along with each other, and live with each other with a very small amount of space, a very small amount of water, and a very small amount of energy. And then we spread that understanding one group at a time and show people that if you work well together, you can do things that otherwise seem impossible. So, for example, this sailing rig weighs about 3,000 pounds. And it probably seems impossible that you could lift that with human strength. But if you work together, I've seen as few as 20 fourth grade students raise that sail. And it all comes down to learning how to work together. And so part of teaching people to raise the sail is teaching them a few basic commands. And a few of them have come to be important to me. The first of which is pick up the line. And it's when the participants actually pick up the halyard line and start to get ready to haul away. And so when I think of getting people engaged, I think of imploring them to pick up the line. And then when we're actually ready to take action, one of the most inspiring things is hearing the mate call out, asking if people are ready. And so they say, ready on the line?
Ready on the line!
And the sloop inspires everything that we do. And so not only are we ready to take people sailing and teach them about river ecology, we're ready to pursue new acts of environmental protection and action. So, ready on environmental action?
Ready on environmental action!
And what we're looking forward to do this June, as we do almost every year, is to have the Great Hudson River Revival, otherwise known as Clearwater Festival, on Father's Day weekend. And that, of course, requires a lot of preparation as well. So I'll ask again, ready on festival?
Ready on festival!
All right. Well, thanks again for joining me for our celebration of Pete Seeger's 100th birthday. And we hope to see you at Croton Point in June and on the sloop whenever you can make it.
That's Greg Williams, the Executive Director of the Clearwater organization, and Manna Joe Greene. And we're going to hear some music right now again from Tom Chapin and
Well, let's do the famous Woody Guthrie song you would not know except for Pete Seeger. As I went walking that ribbon highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking, the sun came shining, with the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling as the fog was lifting. The voice was chanting, what it say? This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and I rambled Atlanta, your diamond deserts, while all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. Give me some background. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. And the very last verse, I heard Pete Seeger sing on this one. New York is our home. New York is my home. From upstate mountains down to the ocean foam.
So many people wearing polychrome. New York was made to be free. This land is your land. This land is my land. California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
This land was made.
This land was made for you and me.
Last chance. Oh, baby.
This land was made for you and me.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Pete Seeger. Happy birthday to you.
Tom Chapin, Abigail Chapin, the crew of the Sloop Clearwater singing dockside at the 79th Street Boat Basin. Pete Seeger, 100 years old today. We're going to have cake soon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a Pete Seeger cake. All right.
All right.
We'll be
Say the
back
piece for
in
Pete.
just a moment.
Ready on the cake?
Ready on the cake!